Hello, Parker County 4-H. Kayla here, and I'm so excited to introduce you all to our new horticulture project, Path to the Produce. Now, we are at capacity with 4-Hers in our physical project group, so we thought it'd be a great idea to provide you all with educational videos of what we're doing in the project workshops, so you can take this information and create your own garden at home. In our first workshop, we created seed starting kits, started our seeds, and got them under lights in hopes that in about 3 weeks we'll be transplanting those seed starts into bigger containers so that we have transplants that we can plant in April. Instead of paying $20 for a seed starting kit, we actually created our own using egg cartons that we cut the lids off of, and then we turned the egg cartons upside down, punched holes to allow for watering and drainage, and then we just place them in a deep baking dish. So this will be our kit. This is going to house all of our seed starts on our shelf underneath the lights once we get the seeds planted. Now, the first thing that we did was actually started with a great base, and it's very important when starting seeds that you use a specific seed starting mix. It doesn't matter what brand you use, but you want to make sure that it's specifically labeled as a seed starting mix. Potting soils and garden soils have too many nutrients in them to start our seeds, and so another option would be one of these seed starting bricks. And actually, our ratio, we used 1 bag of seed starting mix to 1 of the seed starting bricks. We just emptied them both into this bucket and pre-moistened it. That is most definitely necessary because you want to make sure you do moisten your seed starting mix, simply because when you go to water it, it will float if you have not added moisture to it. So add a bag of seed starting mix, add a brick of the seed starter, and add water to it just until it's damp. So it is important that we sterilize our seed starting mix, simply because if anytime it was exposed to fungus or mold, or it may have eggs from small little gnats or fruit flies, we want to make sure to rid all of those contaminants from the seed starting mix. So a really easy way that we can do that is by popping it in the microwave for about a minute, or when you pre-moisten your seed starting mix, you can actually do that with boiling water. I found it easier with our 4-Hers just to pop it in the microwave. They're familiar with the use of the microwave, so we'll nuke it for about a minute to make sure that we are getting rid of any contaminants that might be in here that could risk our preventing our seeds from germinating. Okay, now that our soil has been in the microwave for about a minute, we're going to pull it out. You do want to mix this with a spoon, and be careful because it is rather warm. So we're going to let some of this heat escape by mixing it up. And then once it gets to where I can handle it, we will add it to our egg cartons. I don't want to fill them up completely. I'm going to fill them about halfway. And then we're going to press the seed starting mix firmly down into the egg carton. Okay, now that we've got it pressed firmly down, we're going to top it off again with another layer of seed start. And I don't want to fill these holes up too full. I want to still be able to see the dividers. Okay, so the next thing is to decide on your seeds. This container is actually, we're going to plant habaneros and jalapenos, and I've made labels just on spoons so that I am sure to know which is which. Obviously, once the plant starts producing the fruit, we'll know, but until then, it's important to have labels on our seed containers just so we know what is growing where. And we're going to go through and add 2 seeds to each one of these holes and press them down into the soil. And what I'm going to do is put a seed on one corner and then put another seed on the opposite corner. Okay? The reason for planting two seeds is there is a possibility that both seeds or one of the two seeds will not germinate, and so we always want to plant two. But if both do germinate, I want to plant them far enough apart that I can separate the two plants and move them to a larger container once they've got about 2 to 3 weeks of growth. So I'm just going to work my way around this container, putting the seeds in opposite corners, and then I want to press them down into the start mix. These seeds specifically need to be planted at 1/4 of an inch deep. Your seed packet will tell you on the back how the depth that they need to be planted, and then as well as when you move them out into the garden, the space in which you need to allow. And that's all very important, simply because this helps. If you plant it at the appropriate depth, it helps with germination. And also too, when we move it out into the garden, it is very important that we allow for enough space so we don't have overcrowding. Peppers are unique in that they can be planted a little closer than other fruits and vegetables, but you still want to allow enough room for the plant. Okay, now we will move to our jalapenos. And approaching it the same way, putting a seed up at the top and then diagonally down at the bottom. So it works. We have two different types of egg cartons. One is square in shape, one is round. Either will work just fine, just as long as you allow enough space. After the seeds germinate, and once we get probably about 3 weeks of growth, we are going to have to move these plants to a larger container. Still keeping them inside, they won't be ready to move outside. We will have to move them though to a larger container. Now that we've got our seeds pressed into each of the holes, I'm going to top it again with just another layer of the starting mix. And we're not going to press too hard on this. We're going to keep it lightly covered. All right, so once we have our seeds ready to go, it is important to discuss light. Light is extremely important for plants. And when starting seeds, a window or the lights in our home are not enough light for our seed starts. So it is extremely important that you provide your seeds with an additional light source. This is right out of the box. I think we paid about $14 for it. It already came with the bulb and everything. It plugs directly into the wall. And this is the type of light that we have on our seed shelf. It's connected to a timer, and we give our seed starts 16 hours of light and 8 hours of darkness. Now on the bulbs, some numbers that you want to keep in mind. First would be the lumens, and the lumens, that's considered the intensity of the light. So you're looking for a light source that has 2,000 to 3,000 lumens. And then another number is the kelvins, and the kelvins is actual color of the light. So we want a light that is very similar to daylight, and you're going to get that, that type of light with a kelvins rating of 5,000 to 6,000. Now, if you're unable to find a Kelvin of 5,000 to 6,000, maybe you find one that has a 4,000 Kelvin, but it has a higher lumen intensity. Maybe it's a 4,000 or 5,000 lumen. That's perfectly fine. You can use that. You can kind of fudge a little bit on the kelvins if your lumens are more intense. But again, an additional light source is required. You cannot just depend on the lights from your ceilings or lights from your windows, because what will happen is once the seeds germinate, if they don't receive enough light, they will get just long and leggy, and they won't produce the leaves that they need, and we wouldn't be able to transplant them outside. So an additional light source is necessary when you're starting seeds. Now, so we're providing our seeds with additional light just right over the top. And we're going to place this light bar about 2 inches from the top of our container. And once the plants start to grow, we'll raise it up, but we want to keep this light source rather close to our plants so that they are getting the light that they need to grow. So the last thing that we need to talk about is water. Once we get this moved over to the shelf, I'm going to add 1 16-ounce bottle of water. And the water is to this baking dish, and the water is actually going to be absorbed up through the holes that we poked with our pencil in the bottom of these egg containers. So you do want to keep an eye on the moisture level of your seed starts. You don't want them too dry, you don't want them too wet. So I don't want these egg cartons to be sitting in water all the time. I'll probably water them every 3 to 4 days, but it may require me, depending on just the humidity in our office and the temperature, I may have to drain off some of the water if the seeds get too wet. So water is extremely important along with our light. We'll just have to kind of watch it and make sure we maintain a consistent moisture level, but again, it's not one that we want to be too saturated. So thank you for joining us for our first Path to the Produce. I hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to documenting the process of starting our gardens. And of course, if you have any questions about what we've discussed, feel free to contact the Parker County 4-H office. Thank you.